Welcome to the Mindful Reader podcast. I am so excited for today's exploration. We're diving into Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Have you heard of this one?
I have, yeah. It's a fascinating read.
It really is. This book really makes you think differently about what we humans are capable of. It's like it blends science and spirituality and explores some pretty wild ideas,
Mhm.
like rewiring our brains and the power of emotions.
Right, right.
It even talks of tapping into something called the quantum field.
Yeah. It's incredible how Dr. Dispenza combines scientific research with these almost mystical concepts. He suggests that we can actually go beyond the limitations we often just accept as, normal.
I know right from the start, he just throws out this mind-blowing idea that our thoughts and emotions can directly affect our physical bodies. It's not just some feel-good philosophy either.
Mhm.
He connects it to neuroplasticity. Can you maybe break that down a bit for our listeners?
Sure. Neuroplasticity is basically the brain's incredible ability to constantly reshape itself based on our experiences and, get this, even our thoughts. So imagine your brain as this constantly evolving network of pathways.
Okay, yeah.
Every time you learn something new, or have a new experience, you create new connections and pathways in your brain.
So it's like we're not stuck with the brain we're born with.
Right.
We're actually shaping it all the time just by living and thinking.
Exactly. And what's even more remarkable is that this rewiring can happen at any age. Dr. Dispenza argues that this means we have way more control over our health, our abilities, and even our reality than I might realize.
So if we can, change our brains like that, does that mean we can really become supernatural like the book suggests?
Well, it's not about suddenly getting superpowers like flying or like reading minds.
Okay.
Think of it more as unlocking the potential that's already within you, breaking free from limitations you might have accepted as just part of life. Like, for example, Dr. Dispenza talks about how we can train our brains to access and harness energy in ways we never thought possible.
Right. Which kind of brings us to one of the most intriguing ideas in the book, the quantum field.
Mm-hmm.
It's described as this invisible field of energy where, get this, all possibilities exist.
Yeah.
What exactly is this quantum field, and how does it fit into this whole idea of becoming supernatural?
To understand the quantum field, it helps to think about how matter behaves at a really, really tiny level,
Yeah.
like the subatomic level.
Okay.
Quantum physics basically says that particles can exist in multiple states at once. It's this concept called superposition.
Multiple states at once. Whoa.
Yeah, and Dr. Dispenza suggests that this principle applies not just to particles, but to, possibilities in our lives, too.
So instead of thinking of reality as this fixed and solid thing, we can think of it as a field of potential where different possibilities coexist.
That's the idea. And Dr. Dispenza suggests that our thoughts and emotions can actually influence which of those possibilities we experience. It's like tuning a radio.
Oh.
By
Yeah.
changing the frequency of your thoughts, through practices like meditation, you can tune in to different realities.
That's a powerful image. So it's not just about positive thinking, it's about aligning our thoughts and emotions with the reality we actually want to create.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers of our reality. We are active participants, constantly interacting with this quantum field of possibilities.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. How do emotions fit into all of this? I mean, we all know that emotions are powerful, but can they really shape our reality?
They can. Emotions are like the bridge between our thoughts and our physical bodies. They trigger these chemical changes that can have a huge impact on our health and well-being.
Right.
Think about how anxiety can trigger a racing heart, or how feeling loved can release oxytocin, which makes you feel all relaxed and good.
Yeah.
Dr. Dispenza takes us a step further and suggests that our dominant emotional state can actually influence the energy we emit and, in turn, the reality we attract.
So if we're constantly dwelling on negative thoughts and emotions, we're actually contributing to creating more negativity in our lives.
That's what Dr. Dispenza suggests, yeah. But the good news is we have the power to change that. By becoming aware of our thoughts and emotions and choosing to, consciously focus on the positive, we can create a more positive and empowering reality.
That makes sense. And, Dr. Dispenza doesn't just rely on theory here. He backs up these ideas with scientific research and real-life examples of people who've used these principles to heal themselves from, some serious illnesses. It's pretty amazing stuff.
It is. And I think what's important to remember is that we're often unconsciously controlled by past experiences and beliefs. We carry this baggage that limits us, and it can show up in our emotional patterns.
Oh, for sure.
But the good news is we have the power to reprogram our subconscious mind and break free from those limitations.
So it's like hitting the reset button on all that old programming that's no longer serving us.
Precisely. By becoming aware of our thoughts and choosing new, empowering ones, we can literally change our reality. It's about recognizing that we're not victims of our circumstances or our past. We have far more power to shape our lives than we realize.
That is a powerful message. And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface of Dr. Dispenza's ideas here.
Hmm.
I'm really excited to keep going.
One of the things that really stood out to me in Becoming Supernatural is how Dr. Dispenza talks about the heart.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about emotions. He actually connects the heart to this whole idea of energy and how we can influence reality.
Right, because we were talking about how we're not just physical beings, we're also energetic beings.
Mhm.
But I mean, what does that even mean? How does this energy stuff actually play out in our everyday
Yeah.
lives?
Okay, so think about it like this. When you have a thought, it's not just happening in isolation inside your head. Your thoughts create electrical and chemical activity in your brain, which then produces this electromagnetic field that goes beyond your physical body.
So we're like walking antennas, sending out our thoughts and emotions into the world.
Yeah, kind of. And just like with a radio antenna, the frequency of those thoughts and emotions actually matters. Dr. Dispenza makes this point that when we cultivate positive emotions like gratitude, love, compassion, we raise our energetic frequency.
Okay.
And that can have a ripple effect, not just on us, but on the people in the world around us.
That reminds me of that saying, good vibes only.
Yeah.
But it's not just about putting on a happy face. It's about like genuinely cultivating those positive emotions inside us.
Exactly. And that's where the heart comes in. Dr. Dispenza talks about something called heart coherence, which is basically when your heart and brain are in sync, working together. He suggests that the heart's electromagnetic field is actually way stronger than the brain's, and that by cultivating those heart-centered emotions, we tap into a powerful source of energy.
So when people talk about, following your heart, there's actually some science behind that.
Well, there's definitely more and more research in this field called neurocardiology.
Oh, wow.
It suggests that the heart plays a much bigger role in our emotions and thoughts than we thought before. Dr. Dispenza talks about studies showing that when we experience things like gratitude, love, joy, our heart rhythm patterns actually become more coherent.
Interesting.
And that coherence seems to influence our brain activity in positive ways.
So it's not just about feeling good. It's about creating a state of harmony within ourselves,
Yeah.
which allows us to be more clear, more creative, more intuitive, maybe.
Exactly. And that coherence, it's thought to enhance our ability to connect with other people too, to be more compassionate, more empathetic. Like we're creating this resonance field that can uplift and inspire those around us.
Okay, yeah, I can totally see how this ties into the whole becoming more supernatural idea. By tapping into our own energy and raising our vibration, we can create positive change, not just in our own lives, but in the world.
Yeah, that's a big part of Dr. Dispenza's message, and it's really empowering. He's saying we have more influence than we realize.
That's amazing.
But it's not about trying to control other people or manipulate them. It's about being the change we want to see, radiating that positive energy outward.
Right, that makes sense. And it reminds me of something else Dr. Dispenza talks about. He says that when we reach this state of heart coherence, we can actually influence matter, like from a distance. He talks about these experiments where people could affect the growth of plants, even the spin of electrons in a lab,
Mm.
just by focusing their intention.
Right.
Is there, any science to back that up?
Well, that's definitely a more controversial part of Dr. Dispenza's work, but he connects it to research in quantum physics, specifically something called non-locality. It suggests that particles can be entangled in a way that goes beyond space and time.
So it's like we're all connected by this, invisible web of energy.
Exactly. And some scientists think our consciousness, our intentions can actually play a role in shaping that energetic field.
Wow.
There's still so much we don't know about consciousness, but it's fascinating.
It really is. It makes you wonder, if we can influence matter from a distance, what else is possible? Like, what could we achieve if we really harness the power of our minds and hearts?
That's a great question. And Dr. Dispenza really encourages us to think bigger, to think outside the box. He wants us to go beyond what we think is normal and accept that we are much more powerful than we usually believe.
I love that. So where do we even begin to tap into that power? I mean, we've talked about gratitude and heart coherence. Are there, any other tools or techniques that we can use to access that quantum field, those possibilities?
Well, one of the most powerful tools Dr. Dispenza talks about is meditation. He believes that through specific meditation techniques, we can actually shift our brainwave states, get into higher states of consciousness, and tap into the infinite potential of that quantum field.
But isn't meditation just, sitting quietly and trying to clear your mind? How can that lead to such huge changes?
It's true that quieting the mind is a big part of meditation, but Dr. Dispenza's techniques go beyond that. He
Huh.
guides you through these visualizations where you actually imagine yourself living in the reality that you want to create.
Okay.
You're not just thinking about it, you're feeling it,
Yeah.
embodying it as if it's already happening. And he says that through this process, you rewire your brain and align your energy with your desired outcome.
So it's not just wishful thinking. It's like actively using our imagination and emotions to create a blueprint for our future.
Exactly. And the more you do those meditations, the more you strengthen the neural pathways associated with those positive emotions and beliefs. That makes it more likely that you'll actually manifest them in your physical reality.
It's like we're training our brains to operate at a higher frequency to tune into the reality we want to experience.
Exactly. And the more we practice, the easier it becomes to access those states of peace, joy, and abundance, even when things are tough.
Right. So it's not about denying or ignoring the negative stuff. It's about building a strong foundation of positivity that can help us deal with the ups and downs of life.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we have the power within us to create a life that aligns with our highest potential, a life that is full of joy, purpose, and meaning.
I love that. This has been a truly fascinating conversation about the mind-body connection and the power we have to shape our own reality. There's still so much to unpack from Dr. Dispenza's work. Welcome back to The Mindful Reader. We've spent this whole episode talking about becoming supernatural, and it's just incredible, right? I mean, this book really pushes you to think differently about what's possible. But, we've talked about thoughts and energy and even the quantum field. How do we take all of this and actually make it work in our own lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The good news is you don't have to go live in a cave and meditate all day to benefit from these principles. Dr. Dispenza really emphasizes that even small changes can have a big impact. He talks about bringing more awareness to your everyday routine. Like, think about how you usually start your day.
Oh, God.
You hit the snooze button a bunch of times,
Yeah.
rush out the door all stressed, and then immediately check your emails and scroll through social media.
Sounds familiar, unfortunately. Like, so many of us are just programmed to start the day in that reactive mode, right? Instead of being proactive.
Yes, exactly. And that sets the tone for your whole day. So Dr. Dispenza suggests creating a morning ritual that actually sets you up for success.
Okay, I like this.
Like waking up a little earlier, taking a few minutes to just breathe deeply, express gratitude, visualize your day going well, and set a clear intention for what you want to create.
So it's about being mindful, intentional with our energy right from the moment we wake up. Instead of letting the day just happen to us, we're choosing to take control.
Exactly. And you can actually apply the same idea throughout your day, not just in the morning. Like, let's say you're about to have a meal. Before you dig in, just pause for a moment and appreciate the food.
Yeah.
Look at it. Notice the colors, the textures, the smells. Feel grateful for the people who grew it and prepared it.
Yeah, it's like we're slowing down, actually savoring the experience instead of just mindlessly going through the motions.
Right. That mindfulness is so important. Dr. Dispenza emphasizes that when we bring more presence to each moment, we train our brains to be more focused, more attentive, and that can help us in all areas of life.
It's like we're rewiring our brains for more awareness, appreciation, and intentionality.
Hmm.
I mean, what about those negative thoughts and feelings that we all have? We talked about gratitude and positive thinking, but let's be honest, we all have days when we feel stressed, anxious, overwhelmed. How do we deal with that negative energy?
It's important to remember that you're not going to completely get rid of negative thoughts and feelings. They're just part of being human.
Yeah.
But you can learn to manage them better. Dr. Dispenza talks about this idea of becoming an observer of your thoughts and emotions rather than getting swept away by them.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of saying, I am stressed, you can say, I'm noticing that I'm feeling stressed right now. You see the difference.
Yeah, it's like we're creating some distance, right? Instead of identifying with those thoughts and emotions, we're just observing them like they're passing by.
Exactly. And when you create that space, you're less likely to get caught up in the negativity. You can choose how you want to respond instead of just reacting automatically.
So it's about creating that pause, that moment of choice, where we can decide, do I want to go down this negative spiral, Or do I want to shift my focus to something more positive?
Yes. And that's where things like meditation and visualization can be really powerful.
Yeah.
When you meditate, you're training your mind to be still, to detach from all those thoughts and emotions. And when you visualize, you're creating a new reality in your mind, a reality that aligns with your goals and dreams.
So we're not suppressing or ignoring those negative thoughts. We're actively choosing to replace them with positive, more empowering thoughts and feelings.
Yes, exactly. And as you practice this, you'll start to notice a shift in your overall energy. You'll feel more optimistic, more resilient, more aligned with your true self. And then as your inner world transforms, your outer world will start to reflect those changes.
I love that. This has been such an amazing exploration. We've covered so much ground, from rewiring our brains to tapping into the quantum field. But I think the biggest takeaway is that we truly have more power to shape our reality than we realize. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about becoming the best version of ourselves.
And it starts with making that choice, a choice to step into that power and embrace the amazing possibilities that are within each of us.
Thank you so much for joining us today on The Mindful Reader. We hope you found some inspiration and insights to take with you. And remember, you are capable of creating a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep evolving. See you next time.